Everyone, welcome to a very special edition of Independent Artists Unite song series. As many of you know, I had just put out this song with James K. Ultra Pain in the Ass called Alien. Since then, I've gone down these crazy rabbit holes about aliens. I've had people contact me. And as it's coming out, I think slowly in the news, we're finding out that aliens actually are not aliens at all. They are these interdimensional beings that can travel through time. And so I've been contacted today. Actually, this is a songwriter, among many other things, from the future called the Circuit Preacher. He's actually from the year 2222, and through some kind of technology using wormholes, I think, bouncing communications through wormholes, we're able to be joined by the Circuit Preacher today. I think there's some problems with the transmission, but we're hoping that he will come through shortly. Okay, it looks like we have the Circuit Preacher here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, everybody. My name is Circuit Preacher. As Scott alluded, I am from the year 2222, so I apologize for the connection issues. A lot goes into being able to come back in time to talk with you, but I'm very grateful to be here. I am the lead pastor of the Doomsday Cult called The Last Church of the Final Days. And our passion is to create an underground community in our future state for us to thrive and continue being free thinkers on our own journey of enlightenment.
Okay, and can I ask you something about that? It sounds like so this is a church outside of what we know as churches in our time. This is more of a is it more of I mean, like, I don't want to say a cult, or is it just like spiritual gathering for the good of people, or how would you describe it compared to the religions that we have in this time?
So if you imagine some of the more theocratic areas of the world in 2022, it's much more extreme in the future. And so in order to have true community where people can grow in healthy ways that are not dictated by the government, we have underground communities, and I happen to lead one of those churches.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about how the world has changed from now to 2222? I mean, I know, for instance, we're many fear that we're on the verge of a third world war here. I don't know if you can tell us if that happens or how. Describe a little bit about how the world has changed.
So there's a lot of history to cover in the last 100 years. Yeah. So where I would start is that there were several times where there were destructions of information. And so there've been a couple rebirths, and specifically in the American South, we are currently under a system called Siren, which is a state information reconnaissance and information network. So it is no longer permitted for people to be able to think and gather and grow on their own. So thus, most people in the future will have some sort of implant or system that has been designated to them based on their class to make sure that the government is aware of things that you might be thinking about, things you might be deliberating. So you know how the algorithm works today. If you say that you like dogs and you like football, you're going to get a pretty tailored script of videos to watch. The supercomputer.
So that's just happening in your mind.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So they're able to detect, is this person a potential radical, basically based on your IQ, based on the things that you're thinking, they're going to be able to detect these things very quickly. So we have to meet underground. We have to have people in our group that are part of Siren who know how to deactivate the chips and the implants in order for us to meet.
Okay, so you actually have people on your team that know how to deactivate this. Okay, and
Yep.
and so the music that you do, I mean, it's rather ingenious if this is the case. Tell me if I'm wrong. Where you have this really kind of dark music going on, it's kind of like the industrial or dark wave music of our time, but in it you've embedded these ideas of about hope and about your the kind of spirituality that you're trying to foster in your community. But it's like a communication that's actually disguised in this dark music, which is pretty ingenious, actually.
Right. That is the goal. So, part of it is embodiment, that, we're getting into music that is helping you escape your physical self, through gathering, dancing, but also it's coded with, words that are encouraging enlightenment and subconsciously, growing our community. Yeah.
And yeah, because what was I going to say? I was interested in this idea because many believe in our that in our ancient history, I suppose, that we were like visited by these interdimensional beings, and that actually our religions were all trying to get us to adhere to some basic principles. Like there are these commonalities between all religions that I think most human beings can get with, but however, in the hands of, well, I suppose in the hands of mostly white men, but in the hands of men all over the world, these things get turned into just like tools of control.
Right.
Really. And is how is that developed like in the future? Is there still like the Catholic Church, for instance, or something exerting some kind of control, or are all those churches and religions gone in the future?
No. So, through the destruction of information that happens at periodic points between now and 2222, there's certain resets that happen culturally. And so with that comes, some denominations fading out and other denominations arising from that. But the common theme you're going to see is grabs for control. And that's not going to stop. The easiest way to do that is, in my opinion, fundamentalism, tenets that encourage shame, that divide you against yourself, encourage you not to trust yourself, that others know what's best for you, and that you can't make decisions on your own. Those are still going to be common tenets of the fundamentalism that you see in the future as well.
Yeah, well, that sounds familiar. Yeah. And let's talk about this song, because a song is coming through from you to our world. Well, actually, it'll be here when I post this show. Test of Faith. Tell us what Test of Faith is about, and what, I mean, if you can safely tell us what you're trying to communicate with. Oh, well, I guess you have the implant that has been deactivated in you. Otherwise, we couldn't have this conversation, I suppose.
Yeah, I can't remove it, but it is deactivated currently. So,
and so, what is Test of Faith? What's the communication to your followers in there?
Right. So, Test of Faith is about legalism. It's about fundamentalism, and the overarching theme is that the real test of faith is learning to listen to yourself when there is so much noise in this world and people telling you who you should be, who you shouldn't be, what you can and can't do. And so I wanted to kind of capture using the language of these religious leaders, but saying it in a different way kind of helps you realize how extreme some of these words are. Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice? How much of yourself are you willing to deny? You know, it might start with something mild like, oh yeah, we just need you to give some of your time. We just need you to give some of your money. And then slowly, you know, you start thinking, should I be watching this movie? Should I be thinking about this? And, you know, 2 years down the road, your mind is filled with this pressure of how can I become a little bit closer to this ideal that they're trying to instill in me. So my hope is that by presenting it in this way, you can hear these words are extreme. It's not something you should be seeking to do, is denying yourself into oblivion.
Yeah. And it seems like, I mean, many of the kind of tactics that you're talking about, that this kind of that this, you know, or your government, or this future government for us are employing, are like the same kind of tactics that you are employing to people. Like, I'm just thinking about, you know, for instance, it's mostly dance music, like getting people on the dance floor, getting them physically moving, getting the you know, hormones, pheromones going, mind opening, and then these messages come through. But instead of it being like this kind of programmed algorithm or AI run algorithm, it's about embracing our humanity and our spirituality.
Right. Exactly.
And can you talk a bit about AI? Because just in our time now, we're a bit nervous about AI and what, you know, this idea of AI becoming aware and maybe not being a friend to humans. And how does that factor in the future and in your, you know, the kind of fight that you are leading?
So there's a lot of history to come for AI. Trying to think of how I would summarize it best in the next 200 years.
Or does it end up being our friend?
So there's been time periods of it, right? Yeah. And each country has, you know, learned to develop it differently. One of the challenges is, you know, you can program AI to have certain responses to appear human, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't have the same hierarchy of needs as humans. So, you know, we fear running out of food. We fear being alone. It's hard to capture that in something that's artificial. But there have been time periods, such as in the late 2100s, where there was more integration towards a form of singularity, where people were starting to download their late stage minds into AI. And we were able to prove that, for instance, I could upload my mind into an AI system, ask it questions, and it sounds like it's me. But it started to become an ethical problem in the late to mid 2100s of, is this truly that person, or is it just a recollection of common thought patterns? And are we more than that in terms of personhood? So I think that the philosophers in the late 2100s have mostly come in agreement that we are more than just our influences and the common things that we think and do every day, that we have the ability to grow and change. And that's just not something that we don't see that same organic transformation happening amongst strictly AI-based individuals.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it with AI, that it's that I mean, we in humans have these basic drives that are like primitive, really. drives, and you can't. I suppose maybe there's primitive drives in an AI, but you can't. They're different than human, and it's yeah, like you said, it's not something that's programmable. It's interesting. Now, I'm curious about like when the church, when your church is gathering, is it a physical gathering, or are you is it a gathering that's happening through some kind of technology, or are these physical gatherings all of these groups around the world?
So we've tried to develop ways for our members who are not able to be present to gather with us in spirit, if you will. But the trackers are just so strong that we don't want somebody to be doxxed as being part of our group and potentially face criminal charges. So it is largely a physical gathering. And if we have members of our church that have, handicaps that are unable to attend, we have specialized groups that will help them be able to attend physically, whether it's a form of transportation or whatever we have to do. We also move our church to different underground locations. We can't stay in one because it will be found out. So, we have certain groups that are going to attend when we're over on the western side, certain groups that are going to attend if we're on the eastern side. And yeah.
Okay. And I'm just curious. I'm going to get a little bit nerdy for a second, because we had these well, I suppose, as you know, in this time it seems like we're at the precipice of having some kind of discovery regarding extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings. And there was actually, it's in the news now and today in my time, that there these basically these like Mexican mummified little aliens that look like a basically like a 6th grade art school paper mache project or something. But they now they've actually said that these are real. These actually have a chip in their head, which is interesting because you mentioned that. And I'm wondering, is some of as I mentioned before you came on, I was talking about how there's this theory that there aren't actually extraterrestrials, that they're interdimensional beings, that they're from another version of Earth, or from the Earth in the future, and that humans have evolved to look differently. And I'm just wondering if you and also that interdimensional beings could actually appear to us however we want them to appear. So I'm wondering, I suppose we're not actually seeing what you really look like, because there's otherwise that would be a danger to you, because I know that you have a day job in the future and things like that. So can you shed any light on that, or are you allowed to without having a timeline crash or something about that?
Right.
Do humans evolve into what we think of as looking as like Steven Spielberg's E.T. or something?
That's a great question. I would say that in the early 2000s, you're certainly on the right track, that there's a lot of time travel that happens. And so I would say it's a combination of time travel and the human eye's ability to perceive a certain spectrum of light and rays, right? So a lot of the time travel component is that, yes, humans have existed many, many times, near extinction and then coming back from it. There have been times in the future where there have been far more humans than there even are in 2022. So in terms of time travel, ghosts, things like that, yes, a lot of those things are people, transferring between different time periods. But one question that we still face in 2222 is, was there an origination of our intelligence initially? And is there another group that is interacting with our planet? The suspicion is that there's 3 groups that interact with our planet currently, but it's not available information to everyone because obviously the government is extremely controlling over what knowledge we're allowed to know. But yes, we are all familiar with the concept that time travel exists. It does. And I think it's a necessary thing for us to grow into in terms of physics. But I look forward to more disclosure on what races and other species are interacting with us and where our origin planet may have been.
So still mysteries in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, because one thing too that I really like about what you're doing is because I suppose like here, like I mentioned, this kind of dark wave or goth cultures and stuff like that. I suppose there's the cynical idea. I guess the traditional idea of God is looked upon in a bit of a cynical way by many, but it's like what I'm getting from you, like this concept of God that is this energy between us, is actually something that's always been very strong in the like dark wave and goth culture. They stick together, they don't it's not like punks slamming into each other. Everyone kind of respects the individual style, the individual beliefs, and there's kind of this oneness and really support of the music and of each other. And so that in its way is, I mean, you could call that God too, this kind of energy, which seems to be what you're talking about, this fostering this energy in your community.
Right. And I would agree with that. I think, humans are capable of very deep connection. And unfortunately, it's hindered by a lot of things in our modern world where groups are trying to divide us, with propaganda and how we view ourselves, how we view others. So we're not really able to easily reach levels of connection that certain communities, like you mentioned, have been able to touch to some extent. And so we find ways to describe this feeling, of joy or euphoria, of having these non-judgmental relationships with each other, singing the same songs together, sharing resources. But the use of the word God is, it's widely used. There's lots of definitions. And unfortunately, that definition a lot of the times can be a tool for spiritual abuse and power plays.
Well, I could keep talking for hours and hours like this. This is just like, I mean, and then again, nothing surprises me about this world at this point, but it's such a rare opportunity to have a look into your world. And it's actually inspiring because it's I mean, being a songwriter myself, I suppose it's much of the same thing when I try to reach people here without well, at least not the overt governmental stuff going on. Of course, there's many mysteries there, but yeah, thank you, and I hope that you will keep sending your music to us. I think it's very inspiring for us to all stick together and support each other and find meaning in our humanity in a world that is becoming it seems very artificial and kind of and wanting to be controlled by some kind of totalitarian ideal or something. The fight for control continues, I guess.
Right. And it will continue, but I think that you all are on the right track with how to fight back against it. And, there will be continuous ups and downs of that fight, but, we support you in the future as well. And I'm very grateful to be a part of your show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Circuit Preacher. I think we have a time window here, and I think we're about to lose our connection, but